Hello, I'm Cameron Carpenter, and before we begin today, please consider donating to my Patreon, or giving me a follow on Twitter. Patreon donors help me not die, because I get to pay my bills, and they also get a say in the subject of future videos. On Twitter, I'm kinda boring, so it's whatever. In a cinematic universe with the likes of Michael Bay, Roland Emmerich, and the Russo brothers, how can you make your explosions and destruction feel unique to your specific movie? With so many connoisseurs of violence working in the realm of every genre, how does an artist distinguish the line between schlock and commentary, and further, how do they know if they give a shit? Enter Zachariah Snyder, the axe-wielding, weightlifting powerhouse behind some of the world's most renowned blockbusters, whose deep intellect and sharp geometrical eye has stunned audiences again and again. But Snyder has not always been the filmic champion that he is. Today, we'll look through his filmography to finally get a comprehensive view of how he shoots his action, what it means, and how long you should think about his chest at night before you go to sleep. When Snyder started off his movie career with 1978's Dawn of the Dead, he was working in new territory and had yet to fully master of good sense of scale and space. In this clip from the film, watch as Snyder's framing places you within the center of the action, and how the shot composition is what determines the scale of the surrounding action. As we transition from the close mid-shot of the interior of the car to the sequence where the background is consistently changing to a static foreground subject, to a sequence in which the entirety of the frame is a wide tracking shot that uses the center road to direct your eye to the new sequence of events. Snyder consistently elevates the scale of the environment while always giving viewers a specific guide for the action. But because of this, we can't see the best explosions, or how the fires got started, or how many people were definitely killed. Let's contrast this with the scene from one of his more recent films, Superman Returns. In this clip, we see another instance of citywide destruction, but feel more engaged with the action taking place because the chaos manifests itself in a location that is never fully established, always changing, and the space between the characters is never fixed. Rather than setting the scene up in a composition that allows our eyes to naturally gauge and follow the action, the camera quickly zooms and pans to characterize itself as a player in the midst of the fighting. This characterization of the out-of-narrative player allows us to watch the scene play out as it was intended, with total grit and realism. But Snyder's fight scenes of chaos were not always so lived in. They were at one point too interested in the surrounding locale and geography of their sequences, and how that locale elevated and gave the fights a specific direction. In this prison fight from The Spirit, Snyder gives us a scene with a goal. The two X-Men must get from point A to point B, and their obstacles are twofold: these prisoners, and the close quarters of the prison cells. The fight, in multiple cuts, is always pushing in one constant direction. In profile, the camera always moves from left to right. From the front, it is always pulling out, and from the back, it is always pushing in. The only time Snyder's camera deviates from this method is when Batman neck flips a motherfucker backwards, but the staging is so that Batman's geographical spacing is still more right than left, motivating the movement of the scene. We also have constant and clear views of where the prisoners are coming from, as well as the rectangular texture of the sequence, making the scene, in Snyder's mind, a lot more interesting, I guess, for some reason. Luckily, Snyder rids himself of this technique in his later movie BLOODRAYNE, where a fight between Hot Topic workers and Hot Topic customers is shot with little care to the characters' geography to each other. By filming this sequence in an unestablished maze of muted colors, Snyder wants us to feel as lost in the fight as the characters, even when they do the really cool death things. He is a filmmaker whose eye for death and destruction is unmatched because he shoots in a way that makes us feel like we are actually in the scene with no idea what is going on. I hope you enjoyed this episode. I did, because I made it. If you can share it if you want.